Now we're going to do some gradation scales, which are similar to value scales, but there's not a sharp division. It just goes gradually from light to dark. So we looked at some mark making techniques. So we're going to apply some mark making techniques that go from light to dark. So I started out with just a hatch line, which is a diagonal line, right? And when you make them further apart, it appears to create a lighter value. And then when they're closer together and overlapping each other but still going the same direction, it creates a darker value. So you can see here as I'm working in the medium and then gradually to the dark, I am creating a gradual change or a gradation scale. And as I get to the darker side, I have to repeat and overlap and layer it, but again, still going the same direction. My lines are closer together and I'm working all in pins, so I'm not really pressing harder, I'm just making more lines to make that dark value. But you can see that it gradually goes from light to dark. So you're going to do 3 of these. Now here's my second one, and I decide to do a little kind of a squiggly line. So again, if the lines are close together, they're darker. And on the lighter side, I make them further apart, but I don't really make them bigger. I'm consistent with the size, the type of line, and these kind of squiggly lines, or scumbling is what sometimes people call them, make a nice texture or a sense of movement in your work. So it's kind of fun to do portraits like this or different kinds of drawings like this. So as I work towards the dark again, I have to continue to overlap and maybe even make them not necessarily smaller, but through the overlapping I'm eliminating white space, so that makes it darker in value. Again, going gradually from light to dark, filling in the spaces, trying to keep it consistent so I don't have white gaps or dark areas throughout the whole thing. Just some finishing touches. If you get back away from whatever you're doing and you blur your eyes a little bit, it helps you see the gradual value changes and where you might need to add or subtract. Now I'm going to do another diagonal line, but very, very short lines. Again, same thing, further apart. You can see I space them further apart in the light areas. And then as I go on the darker areas, I make them closer together. So I'm working through very gradually from the medium. This one takes a little longer. And then I work into the dark, overlapping and layering. And in a minute I'm going to speed it up. But I am making each mark independent from the other ones. As I go fast, it kind of looks like I'm going back and forth, but I'm not really. Each mark is a line. So I want you to experiment a little bit, making some 3 gradation scales, and in this you saw some samples of different kinds of mark making. You don't have to use what I used, use your own. You can make one up or you can use from the sample page that we looked at. And there I'm speeding up and blurring my eyes and kind of looking at what needs to be added, and we can't really subtract, so you're just adding. Probably the lighter areas should be a little less harsh, so it could be a little smoother. But you can kind of see that you're just experimenting with lines and making 3 gradation scales now.